Hello everybody and welcome to the Bad Bookers Wrestling Podcast. My name is Matt and today we're going to look at a review for the NXT from the 13th of March. I've been a little bit absent recently. I've just not had the time with work and a few other commitments to get these out, which I'm a bit disappointed in, especially as I've missed some cracking episodes. I think last week was the quarterfinals of the Dusty Road Classic and there were some absolutely fantastic matches in there. But like I say, I've been absent. Hopefully I'll get these out more regularly now and we can start to sort of have one of these reviews out after every Raw. After every NXT. Sorry, I've watched so much wrestling this week. Everything's kind of blending into one. Without further ado, let's just get into a review of last night's NXT. So we started the night with a Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic semi-final between Moustache Mountain and the Forgotten Sons. I didn't particularly want Forgotten Sons to go through. I think I'm not a big fan. I get why they're going through, and I get why when we get onto the sort of outcome of this match, I get why they're now in the final and they've managed to beat the guys from Moustache Mountain. I get it. Moustache Mountain have had their time in the limelight. They're in NXT UK. They're going to spend more of their time wrestling in NXT UK, so they can't really have another shot at the title because that takes them away from that for another long while. So I get that, you know, the Forgotten Sons needed to win this match, but I don't even think they really needed to win last week. They're not the best technical wise. They don't really have strong characters at the moment. I assume that's what they're trying to build here, but you know, to be fair, it was a good match. We had a few decent spots. Obviously, Tyler Bate did the biplane or whatever they call it, where he spins them both round on his shoulders. We had Trent Seven doing bits and bobs. They obviously had the storytelling element with Trent Seven's knee injury again. So you know, there was some good spots, and then we ended up with, was it DDT to finish or something? There was I don't even know what the guys in Forgotten Sons are called. They're just really generic characters. They haven't had characters sold to us recently. I don't know whether they did. I've been sort of an average watcher of NXT for the last, I think I've watched every episode for about 7 months now. So whether maybe before that they were more prominent and they've just had some time away, I'm not sure. But I don't even know which one is which. I'm just looking through notes that I've made here, and I think it was Jackson Riker. I think was the fella who finally managed to get the victory. I think it was a DDT. I've got some form of double stomp or something, maybe stomped on his chest. I can't quite remember it now, which is bad because it's only like an hour and a half since I watched it. But it was, like I say, the match wasn't terrible. There were some good spots. Both sides got in a decent amount of offense. Both sides did fairly well, but in the end, the Forgotten Sons came out with a victory. The one of them that wasn't in the match did interfere at one point. I think I can't remember whether it's Tyler Bate or Trent Seven had somebody down for a pin, and he pulled his leg up onto the bottom rope. So there was a bit of interference. So you know, they're not like burying Moustache Mountain by having them losing, but there's just not quite. Forgotten Sons just aren't quite there yet for me. I think they need a bit more. I think they probably needed a bit more build before this. I know they had a couple of matches earlier this year. I just think they needed a little bit more build. Maybe a couple more singles matches for each one. Like maybe a singles match for each one in the build up to this, so that I could learn who they are, learn what their finishes are, learn the different types of like ring style or whatever. But you know, that's just me being hypercritical. It was a good match, and we've now got one of the teams into the final of the Dusty Rhodes Classic for the Takeover Mania weekend in New York, or whatever they call it. Is it Takeover Brooklyn? I don't know whether it's Brooklyn or whether it's somewhere else in New York. I probably should have read up on that before I did this, but yeah. And like I say, it was an all right match. It wasn't the best. You know, it was your standard 3-star decent match on NXT. There was nothing sort of over amazing about it, but it wasn't like it was a poor match. So, you know, fair enough. We then moved on, and it was Io Shirai versus Bianca Belair. I believe, was this a number one contenders match? it certainly by the end of it was supposed to have been, and obviously, so we had a fairly decent match. Both Bianca Belair is starting to get better. I thought she was pushed too hard into the limelight. To me, she's what I'd call a mid-carder at the moment. Obviously, mid-carder in women's wrestling doesn't really exist. You're basically either in the title picture or you're not in any picture at all, especially on NXT. I think it's something NXT probably needs to work on, is actually having a women's division outside of the title picture, and it's something the main roster needs as well. Now, we've had a few storylines here and there, but we never really get anything other than title matches, and now we're going for title matches. Oh, and you can have a tag title match. It's all there really is for women. So it's hard for people like Bianca Belair, who needs ring time to gain that experience, so that she doesn't look so out of. I felt she looked really out of place against Shayna Baszler in the takeover. That being said, I said the same thing about Shayna Baszler 12 months ago, and look where we are now. She's a fantastic wrestler. So there's hope for Belair. I can see Belair being a really good wrestler going forward, but she needs more ring time. This was a good match. I think Io Shirai shows that she's been in a different company. She's wrestled a lot in the ring. She's wrestled in front of cameras before. She feels like more of a star than Bianca Belair is, to me, personally. That's just my opinion. But, you know, they're both good wrestlers in of themselves. They put on a decent match. Both of them got some offense in. Obviously, we saw Belair again using the hair to whip Shirai so that she could get on top. Something that she keeps doing. I'm glad that she no longer just uses the hair as a whip when she's already on top and just whipping people on the ground. I'm glad that it's kind of her last resort thing. She's being battered and beaten, and she can't work herself on top, and then all of a sudden she just gets that one opportunity to use her hair as a whip. It shocks the opponent hits the deck, and then she's then on the offense and she can build from there. I like that's how they're using the hair. I like that it's not just her whipping somebody who's on the floor. I don't really get the use of that. We had a few spots. Obviously there was a 619, and there was a bit where Shirai was in a trio woe and she got whipped, and there was a few other bits and bobs. But the end of this match, Shayna Baszler was on commentary. And yeah, Shayna Baszler either snapped at what one of the commentators said or just couldn't be bothered anymore. So she runs down to the ring. She gets I think she gets Shirai out of the ring, and then puts Bianca Belair in a Kaklina clutch, Karakuna clutch, whatever they're calling her finisher, her chokehold. Puts her in that for a while. Kairi Sane stands at the top of the ramp and shouts something in Japanese that I can't understand. Baszler holds on to Belair for the longest possible time, then throws Belair sideways over her shoulder and goes at Kairi Sane, and we end this segment with Bianca Belair, with Shayna Baszler standing over the prone bodies of Kairi Sane, Io Shirai, and Bianca Belair, and all three of those who are supposed to be the contenders for this title are left on the ground. She's standing tall. We then go to a backstage segment where she's walking out of the building. She gets an interview, and she's told in this interview that William Regal has now decided that because there was no outcome to this match, so it must have been a number one contenders match, thinking about it, because there was no outcome to this match, that she's going to defend the title in a fatal four-way at TakeOver New York, or whatever they're calling it, and that the match itself was fairly good, but again, it wasn't anything outstanding. It was a good NXT match. You know, it would be 4 stars on the main roster, or it would be above average on the main roster. It's average for NXT, and we had a bit of a funny finish. But there was point to it. It's storytelling. I don't mind, these shoddy finishes if you're doing it right. And this is for storytelling purposes. That makes sense. So I'm happy with that. We then got on to the main event. Now, I avoid NXT spoilers like the plague. I don't want to know anything. I enjoy the show so much. I just want to be left to enjoy the show. However, today I went to watch the SmackDown highlights on YouTube because I wasn't going to have time to watch them watch the actual show before the podcast, and literally thumbnail spoil this match, and I hate that. What is the point in putting this on your YouTube channel and having the end of this match as the thumbnail? It made me very angry, but I watched the whole thing, so let's go from the start. So we had then Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic semi-final number 2, Aleister Black and Ricochet versus DIY. We get into what was a very, very good match. There was spots all over the place. There was really good synchronized wrestling, really good synergy. It's two teams of really, really top quality wrestlers. These are probably 4 of the top 10 wrestlers, maybe not quite the top 10, maybe, but certainly 4 of the top 20 wrestlers in WWE in the ring. Ciampa and Gargano have got that chemistry that nobody else in wrestling has got, as far as I'm concerned. It was just absolutely incredible wrestling from the word go. All 4 of them know how to work a crowd. There was this stupid fight forever chance that I hate, but they just show that, the crowd is so into it. This is one of the best TV... I keep saying there's loads of good TV matches on NXT. It's almost like this was a pay-per-view match. There's been a few others that we've had. They've all involved these wrestlers. It's not really any that have involved anybody else. They might have involved these guys and somebody else, or somebody in here and somebody else. But this is up there with that cage match just before Christmas that was Aleister Black versus Gargano that Ciampa got involved in. This match is up there with that for me. There was all sorts going on. We had storytelling. We had the spots. We had just great in-ring wrestling. You had wrestlers not being stupid and actually using their eyes. So normally if somebody gets pushed out of the way when somebody's in the run-up to a suicide dive, they just do the suicide dive anyway and somebody else gets hit. Not here. They had Ciampa saving what he thought was saving Gargano from a suicide dive from Ricochet, and Ricochet just did his flip, whatever you do, where he ends up on one knee. We then had a spot a short while later, Aleister Black again looking like he's going for a suicide dive. They both split apart, and he does his lion salt on to seated, whatever he does with the sit down in the ring, and then Ricochet sat down next to him. It's making Ricochet and Aleister Black feel like a tag team, which I guess is the point of this, because obviously they're a tag team on the main roster now. If they felt really good, this whole thing kind of seemed like it was working. I really enjoyed it. And then we get to the finish of this match. Now Gargano goes down holding his left knee. He then uses his left leg whilst having his right knee dragging to move himself across the ring, and then continues to sell the left knee. Now, if this had been the end of it, and it had been a spot about, Gargano was injured, I'd have been really angry at this point, because you need to, if you're a professional wrestler, you should know, if you're selling a left knee injury, don't drag your right leg. But we'll get onto that in a minute. So, but yeah, Gargano comes out of the ring. He can't continue. Ciampa instead goes into the ring for a bit, knocks the other fellas down, and gets knocked down. He then rolls out of the ring to go and speak to Gargano, and Gargano's going, my knee is shagged. I just can't get back up. Gargano gets back in the ring, does a little bit more, goes back to the ropes to look over to them to speak to Gargano, and understands that Gargano is injured and is not going to be able to help him. Just before Gargano did the knee, they tried to do the meet in the middle, their finisher, and I think it was Ricochet pulled Gargano out of the ring. But anyway, there's just so much going on in this match. I'm not going to get through it all. I'll just tell you what I can remember. But yeah, so at this point, I'm fairly annoyed at the spot, but I'm getting the point of Gargano can't be in the match, so it's then 2-on-1, which is why Ciampa ultimately fails. And I was right. Ciampa ultimately he kicks. He sort of gets he ducks out of a kick from Black. Black then ducks out of a kick from him. He then ducks out of another one, kicks Aleister Black in the chest, goes to do the fairy tale ending. Black rolls out of the fairy tale ending. Ciampa goes for another kick, and then as he misses, turns around and gets hit with the Black Mass. Lying prone on the floor, Black makes the tag, and we get a 6:30 ending, which ends the match. And they get the 1, 2, 3. Ciampa then Candice LeRae's already at ringside at this point, talking to Gargano. Ciampa goes down there. He picks his mate up. They carry to the top of the ring. There's a few bits. Gargano falls over. Ciampa picks Gargano up again. And then Ciampa goes to throw Gargano into the LED board at the top of the ramp, like that spot from however long ago it was. But Gargano just puts the brakes on. And Ciampa's like, what's going on here? And Johnny Gargano's just like, no. And then Ciampa tries to do it again. Gargano spins round and throws Ciampa into the LED board, points at his knee and goes, there's nothing wrong with me. I was fooling you all along. Ciampa is down on his knees, and Gargano comes in and super kicks him whilst he's on his knee, like he would in his half of the Meet in the Middle from their finisher. Candice LeRae's in the background smiling. The crowd is going mental, chanting Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Wrestling. And Gargano comes to the edge of the stage at the top and just shouts, Johnny Wrestling is back. And that's how we go off the air. And it was a perfect way to end it. We couldn't get the match that we all wanted. This is supposed to lead to Ciampa versus Gargano for the NXT title at TakeOver New York. We're not going to get that. Ciampa is injured, I think. And the reason I say I think is we all know he's had surgery, and we all know that he's definitely out injured, but he's not dropping the title because he's still posting on Twitter about him and Goldie, and he had a bandage on Goldie, I think, at one point. Just still some brilliant fire. I mean, he's just the best person on Twitter. He's better than Becky Lynch even, but so I certainly don't think we're gonna get a match between them at TakeOver New York. I don't know whether Ciampa's going to have to relinquish the title. I don't know what's happening, basically. Maybe, I mean, the injury that we've been told, or the surgery that we've been told, there's anywhere between 4 and 16 months recovery time. So I can't see Ciampa wrestling before, realistically, November in the TakeOver Survivor Series weekend. So it's going to be a long time away. You might get him back for TakeOver at SummerSlam, but I highly doubt it. I mean, that's cutting it fine. That's if he's kind of on point. So we've got 2 takeovers between then. You've got the takeover at Mania, you takeover at Money at the Bank, if they're doing that again this year. I think it's 5 takeovers a year with Mania and Money at the Bank as the next 2, as far as I'm aware. I haven't done my research, but either way, I don't know what's happening now. I was annoyed that I got this spoiled, and I was also annoyed that in the thing, not only did they spoil that they were splitting up, but they spoiled that Gargano was the one who ends up on top, because the what's it called, the thumbnail for the video is Ciampa with Gargano's arm around the back of his neck getting thrown into the LED board. But whatever happens, I still want to know what the end to this story is, because obviously they have to end this story now, because Gargano has to have something to do. I don't know whether Gargano's now going to go up, because obviously these guys were going to go up before Ciampa said, oh no, I've got to have surgery. So are these guys going up? Is Ciampa going to stay in NXT and Gargano go up? Is Gargano going to fight somebody else with a vacant NXT title at TakeOver New York, whatever? I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I'm really excited to see what happens, but we're just going to have to wait. I think the match that went on before this was absolute top quality for NXT. It's 4.5 star match, I would say. It maybe 4 star. Maybe I'm over egging it a bit, but certainly with the storytelling that we had afterwards, and the fact that Gargano screwed over Ciampa to make him lose and then gets over in the end is the babyface win that we all want as well. Gargano's back to being a face, I assume, which is a bit annoying because I really wanted him to get some heel music because I hate his face entrance music that he's still been used as a heel. I hate his entrance music, it's terrible. But either way, we're getting something. I don't know what we're getting and I'm really excited. It's just, I was just a little bit disappointed that the WWE spoiled it for me with their thumbnails on their videos. Just me being a bit picky. But yeah, overall this is a really good NXT show. We've got some build to take over. We've got some, like I say, we've had some really good matches. We now know there's Ricochet and Aleister Black versus the Forgotten Sons at TakeOver. I assume the Forgotten Sons go over because Black and Ricochet are, I assume, in a match at Mania the following night, and they're not exactly going to be best on the main roster if they've got the NXT tag titles. As far, I just don't see that myself. I've actually got them down as winning the Raw tag titles over the Revival at WrestleMania. That's my personal opinion. But so I assume they lose to the Forgotten Sons in a slobber knocker of a match to try and get the Forgotten Sons over. Maybe it'll work. I'm really excited to see. But at least we've got some build, some storyline, and we know now 2 matches at TakeOver. One's going to be Fatal 4-Way for the women's title with Io Shirai, Kairi Sane, Shayna Baszler and Bianca Belair, and then like I say we've got the Forgotten Sons versus Black and Ricochet, and I'm really hyped for next week's NXT and for TakeOver already. So yeah, all in all, it's a good positive show. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to hear more from us, hit us up on Twitter. It's at BadBookersWP on Twitter. We also now have a website, so www.badbookers.co.uk. So in fact, it's badbookers.com. And if you want to you know, the likes of what you're going to have on there, Jack is doing Raw reviews. There's some news segments. I'm doing a blog. I'm rebooking Raw, so I've set myself some rules, and I'm trying to make Raw a better show for everybody to watch. The first one of those is going to drop on Friday the 15th of March, and I'm going to be doing them every Friday after that. We've got Chris is going to be doing, I think he's reviewing every ECW pay-per-view, so he's gone right the way back to 1995 and he's starting reviewing ECW pay-per-views, which will be a great read because I had no idea what was going on. I watched the first one just out of interest, just to see what Chris was going to be doing. I had no idea what was going on, so either he's going to explain that or explain what was going on, or he's going to be along the ride with us and have to try and work out how to review something where you have no idea what the build is to these feuds, no idea who some of these characters are and what the hell they're trying to do, because there's just insanity going on. It'll be great fun. So yeah, highly recommend it. Head over to Bad Bookers. Obviously, you're already here through the YouTube channel. If you don't already subscribe, please subscribe. Please hit the like button. Leave us a comment if you want to interact with us. And let us know. Just thank you very much for coming along, and there's more of this stuff. You've obviously got Jack doing the Raw and SmackDown reviews. Smoothman has got his New Japan stuff that's coming out at the weekends as well. There's shows all over the spot. You get the podcast. So most importantly, just thank you very much for coming along, and we will see you again shortly for another episode of the NXT reviews. Thank you very much and goodbye.